some concerning environmental news coming out over the last week. 21 more species have been quietly added to the threatened species list by the federal government. 7 of these are plants that occur in New South Wales, from tall orchids, tall eucalypts to tiny orchids, as well as some animals, including the little tern and the Australian humpback dolphin. Michelle Leishman is a distinguished professor of biology from Macquarie University and expert on threatened plants, and joins us now. Morning, Professor.
Morning, Craig.
So, plants and animals on the list. What are one of the ones we should really be concerned about here?
Well, there's a whole range of different species that have been added. A couple of dolphins, humpback dolphin and snubfin dolphin, small little tern, some turtles, some giant burrowing frogs, and 17 plant species. And I'm a plant biologist, so my focus has been on the plant species, but it just shows you that there's a range of different species from all across the continent, really, from coastal and estuarine waters right through to Kangaroo Island and a range of different habitats across the continent.
Yeah, so what gets a plant added to this list? Like, what do we have to see happen before it be added to the endangered species list?
So for a plant to be, well, for any species to be listed as threatened, they go through a systematic screening process, and we follow what's called the IUCN, which is the International Union of the Conservation of Nature guidelines. So both the states and the federal government follow these sorts of assessment guidelines. And there's a range of criteria and categories that they use to classify a species as being vulnerable or endangered or critically endangered, or possibly of least concern, and we don't need to worry about them. So there's this very systematic screening process, and the sorts of things that push a species towards extinction are things like having declining range size, so that their habitat is declining, and it might be declining in extent or declining in quality, that there's a decline in the number of individuals or the number of populations, and ongoing threats. So they're the sort of key things that we look for.
So what are the things that have been added to this list? So what are some of the plants, for instance?
Well, so we have 17 plant species added to the list. 6 of them have been uplisted. So they were on the list before, so they might have been listed as vulnerable, and now they're considered to be endangered. And 11 of them are new additions. So we have a whole range of different things, like you said in the intro. Some of them are tiny orchids, one from Kangaroo Island, another one is a New South Wales species, and some of the bunch of eucalypts. We've got the tiny dwarf mountain pine has now been gone from endangered to critically endangered. So a whole lot of different things, different sizes, different locations, quite a few in New South Wales. And a lot of that is actually reflecting the big mega fires that we've had.
Okay, so these were impacted by the fires, and that's led to these kind of being added to the endangered list.
Yeah. So what we're beginning to see is when we have these big mega fires, so the 2019, 2020 fires, they were big in extent as well as being big in intensity. And so when you've got species that have very small populations, then the whole population is affected. So we're just beginning to see the rollout of species going onto the list because of the intensification of fire under climate change.
Yeah, okay. Now, and just quickly to the animals, the dolphins that have been affected by this, I know this is not your area of expertise, but is this an Australian problem, or is that kind of, when you look at dolphins, is that more of a kind of global issue?
Well, some of them are species that only occur within Australia, but I mean, what it really reflects is they're species that occur in coastal and estuarine areas. They're affected by habitat degradation. They're affected by poor water quality. You know, it's a global problem, but we certainly see that in our estuarine areas here in Australia. So these 2 species, the humpback dolphin and the snubfin dolphin, occur basically in northern Australia, from the Kimberley coast round through to Gladstone. And it's water quality.
Yeah, really concerning. Oh, well, thank you for the update. Appreciate it, although it's not good news. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Distinguished Professor of Biology Michelle Leishman from Macquarie University. The news here, 21 more species being added to the threatened species list.